Chishiya is one of the fan favorites. He and Arisu had the biggest impact in completing the games from the Borderland and sending everyone home. We saw Chishiya clear games with ease, constantly amazing us with his critical thinking. His performance in the King of Diamonds game was pure brilliance, especially when he broke down exactly why the last woman would choose the number 62. But what if, instead of deadly games, he played children's games? Would Chishiya clear those as well? That's the topic of today's video. How would Chishiya fare if he were a player in Squid Game? In my honest opinion, he would only struggle with one game. In all the others, he'd clear them with ease. The main difference between Squid Game and Alice in Borderland is that Squid Game involves a higher degree of luck and randomness, whereas Alice in Borderland features strict rules, with every game built on a logical structure that guarantees its solvability. Nonetheless, even if there's more luck involved, the Squid Game challenges are far easier than the ones featured in Alice in Borderland. The Alice games are more brutal, deadlier, and if Chishiya survived those, he would almost certainly ace all the Squid Game challenges. One big discussion that always comes up with this question is the idea that Chishiya doesn't excel in physical games, but I think this underestimates him. He's proven his agility and quick reflexes, dodging bullets from a machine gun in the confined space of the Five of Spades game is proof enough. And honestly, there's no real comparison between the Spades games in Alice and Borderland and the challenges in Squid Game. If the Squid Game tasks existed in the Borderland, they'd all be rated an ace in terms of ease. Surviving the deadliest Spades games shows he's more than capable of handling anything Squid Game could throw at him. Gi-hoon may have won the competition twice, but when you compare the two, Chishiya has stronger overall qualities in nearly every domain, except kindness. Some argue he'd lose, because his strength lies in intelligence over brute force, but that ignores the fact he's never been physically weak. Add his talent for manipulation, and the already less demanding physicality of Squid Game compared to the Borderland, and it's clear he'd adapt and excel. Red light, green light would be no problem for Chishiya. The main difficulty in this challenge is the shocking realization that you can actually die while playing what appears to be a children's game. Chishiya would clear it without even taking his hands out of his jacket, straightforward and simple. The reason is that he never truly cared whether he lived or died, so he wouldn't panic and run wildly when the killing started. This attitude would make him calm and rational, and he wouldn't flinch at the sound of gunfire. After seeing Il-nam moving freely and realizing that all you need to do is follow the rules, he'd have no problem surviving. If Sang-woo could figure out that the doll was a motion sensor and that hiding behind a larger person would help avoid detection, you can be certain Chishiya would figure that out too. Moving on to the Dalgona game, this would be easy for Chishiya as well. First of all, he is highly observant and always takes his time to notice every detail related to the game right from the start. Even if he picked the umbrella shape, he wouldn't rush to carve it out. Instead, he'd wait and watch how other players tackled the challenge. Taking his time, he would spot Gi-hoon licking the Dalgona and quickly apply the same strategy. Honestly, I think he might even discover this trick on his own before seeing anyone else do it. Regarding the next game, this is where some people say he would meet his end, but I disagree. The next challenge is Tug of War, and for this one, Chishiya would team up with Deoksu and his crew. We saw a similar scenario in Alice in Borderland when Chishiya joined the beach and became one of its executives, despite having far fewer days in the Borderland compared to others. If Chishiya could manipulate both Hatter and Aguni, then manipulating Deoksu to join his team wouldn't be a problem. Deoksu, realizing Chishiya's immense potential, would accept him in order to benefit from his intelligence. Before the tug-of-war match, Sang-woo concluded that a team of only men had the highest probability of winning. If Sang-woo could figure that out, you can be sure Chishiya would as well. That's why he would align with Deoksu's team and clear the third game without trouble. For the marbles game, I don't think much explanation is needed. This would probably be the easiest challenge for him. As for the glass bridge, many argue that this game is too random and luck dependent for Chishiya to reliably win, but I disagree. Remember the first game we saw Chishiya play? It was the Five of Spades, a deadly game in a motel where players had to find a safe room while avoiding a killer. Before that game began, Chishiya's first move was to go to the top floor and observe everything from above. Before the glass bridge, players must pick a number. While most rushed to grab middle numbers, the first and last positions were left over. Chishiya wouldn't join the rush. If the choice came down to the first or last positions, he'd likely pick the last, mirroring his approach in the 5 of spades game. And as we saw, being among the last to cross almost guaranteed survival. So yes, Chishiya wouldn't have any trouble clearing the 5th challenge either. Now for the Squid Game itself, here's why I think he would win this too. When people discuss this game, they often fall back on the argument that Chishiya isn't physically strong enough for a one-on-one fight. But here's the problem. The actual challenge is not to kill the other player. It's to reach the top of the squid's head by hopping on one foot, then running to tap the head while the defender tries to stop you. There's no killing required. Gi-hoon and Sang-woo fought because it was the most straightforward way to eliminate the opponent, but Chishiya could easily adopt Gi-hoon's strategy. Once the opponent is blinded or distracted, he could rush to finish the game. The Squid Game is more about deception and strategy than raw physical strength, exactly the kind of situation where Chishiya excels. So no, he wouldn't have any problem clearing this game either. Season 1 would be a walk in the park for Chishiya. But what about Season 2 or Season 3? Would anything major change? For the first challenge, things would stay exactly the same as in the first scenario we discussed. For the second challenge, realistically, he might struggle with a few games in the 6-legged race simply because they're Korean childhood games and he's Japanese. However, as we saw in the show, a surprisingly high number of teams managed to pass this challenge. The big advantage is that players could choose beforehand the game they felt most confident in clearing. With the exception of Gongi, I think the other games are relatively easy. If I had to guess, I'd say Chishiya would most likely choose the D-Jockey challenge. Let me know in the comments which game you think he'd be most suited for. Regarding the Mingle game, I don't think this would pose much of a challenge to Chishiya at all. He's extremely adaptable, and the most difficult part of this challenge is the need for quick thinking and fast reactions in order to gather the required number of players for each round. Chishiya has demonstrated those exact traits multiple times in Alice and Borderland. Now, the only game I think Chishiya might truly struggle with is the hide-and-seek challenge, regardless of which team he's on. I believe it would be much easier for him as a red player, since he wouldn't hesitate to kill another contestant, especially if we take into account his manga character. The only real difficulty for him in that role would be finding a target. If he played as a blue contestant, however, the difficulty would increase exponentially. No matter how cunning or strategic you are, the blue players are at a serious disadvantage. Not only do they need to survive the full 30 minutes while facing armed opponents, but even if they locate the exit door, they still need all 3 types of keys to unlock it. Information that was deliberately withheld by the guards. One point in Chishiya's favor, even as a blue player, is that he's already survived far more dangerous games in the Borderland. If he managed to find a way to stay alive through those, we can expect he might still find a solution here. Still, I believe this would be the only game to truly challenge him. Now, regarding the 5th game, you already know my opinion on it. I don't think it really deserves to be the penultimate challenge of this competition, so I'll keep it brief. Given the high number of players who managed to pass this game, I strongly believe Chishiya would complete it with ease as well. After all, even player 100 was able to jump over the rope for a couple of minutes without any difficulty. As for the final game, this is manipulation at its finest, exactly where Chishiya shines. We saw how Myungge manipulated the players, and if he could pull it off, then Chishiya certainly could too. Without plot armor, this game would most likely have multiple winners, and Chishiya would be one of them. So as we've seen, Chishiya would have no real problem clearing all the Squid Game challenges, even if they involve more randomness and luck. Not only did he survive until the end of Alice in Borderland, but he played one of the biggest roles in clearing the games, especially the face card challenges. I honestly don't think anyone else could have beaten the King of Diamonds without him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you agree that Chishiya could clear Squid Game without ever taking his hands out of his coat.